This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Love this podcast? Support this show through the Acast supporter feature. It's up to you how much you give, and there's no regular commitment. Just hit the link in the show description to support now.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
Explaining football to the friend who's just there for the nachos? Hard. Tailgating from home like a pro with snacks and drinks everyone will love? An easy win. And with Instacart helping deliver the snack time MVPs to your door, you're ready for the game in as fast as 30 minutes. So you never miss a play or lose your seat on the couch or have to go head-to-head for the last chicken wing. Shop Game Day faves on Instacart and enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 grocery orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Other fees and terms apply.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
This is Writers on Film, the only podcast dedicated to books on cinema.
I left England and I guess it was 99, yeah. So been here a long time now.
What led you over to the Big Apple?
I came here to do a graduate degree, but it was, I came here for a summer after my second year at university in Manchester and decided that I needed to live here. And so the graduate degree was partially about trying to live here and partially about doing a graduate degree. So it's like, how do I get, oh, maybe so I applied to NYU and I got in, and so that was that. Yeah.
Wow.
And I always intended to stay.
Yeah, that sounds very similar to my experience. I came over. Well, I came over. I remember it was the Christmas of '98, I think, and I came over. I came over to visit my then girlfriend, now wife, and I remember being on the train coming back from Venice, and we stopped in a railway station, Treviso, and we had 10 minutes to wait as we changed trains. And I remember seeing a guy in an edicola, in like a little kiosk selling newspapers and stuff, and I thought I could do that. I thought I've just got to find something that vacancy, and I'll just fill it. And it really doesn't matter what I'm doing. I don't care. I just want to be in this country. I felt like I'd arrived home.
Yeah. I had the same thing. It's a strange. I think in retrospect, I never felt fully at home in England. And it was a weird thing. I came here and it just, within minutes, I knew, like, this is where I want to live. This feels right. It still does. Has its ups and downs, but yeah.
Were you studying film? Was film part of your academic?
Yeah, I did a cinema studies degree. Yeah, so I did a literature degree in undergrad and then cinema studies. Yeah. So not studying production, but studying, film academia, as it were, theory, history, all of that. So yeah, very much so.
Are you still in that world now? Are you still in the academic side of things?
Not at all. No. After I graduated, I wanted to. I didn't really know where it was headed. I knew I wanted to be involved in the film world and, in the kind of film appreciation world almost, rather than filmmaking. But I wanted to maybe write or, write, program, get involved in something like that. And that was a tough world to get into. I did work, and I worked for a distribution company for a little bit and did bits and bobs, and then actually went completely into music for a while.
Right.
And ran a record label, and then switched back to this. Now I'm in the film world, kind of, publishing film world. But yeah.
What sort of music? I don't want to go too far that way, but what sort of music were you publishing?
I was known as we always called ourselves an experimental label. Mm-hmm. It's not strictly true, but it was a very small label. It was me and two other guys, and then just me and one other guy. And small stuff, small weird stuff, but kind of underground music in New York. And it was great, but it was a tough grind, as I'm sure you can imagine. And what happened in the music industry with streaming and digital and all that made it particularly tough. And we packed it in a little over 10 years ago.
Was it during that period that you when that's finished that you started in publishing?
Yeah, roughly.
Or was there an overlap?
No, there was no overlap. I went through a kind of odd transitional period that I won't really go into, where I did various different things, but the publishing thing really started with that book, The Press Gang, where I was thinking back on those writers in the New York press. Exactly, there it is. I was thinking back on those writers and how I wanted to reread some of it, and I couldn't find a lot of it. And so then I had this idea in my mind of, someone should do that book. That idea permeated for a long time, and no one did that book. And I just then started to think, maybe I should do that book. Could I do that book? I didn't have any experience whatsoever beyond just whatever knowledge I had or anything like that. And so I contacted Godfrey Cheshire, Matt Zoller, Seitz, and Armond White, and just said, look, I have this idea for this book. And I said I was going to start a small press at the time, which was not really, I mean, I had aspirations, but I had no way to do it yet, or no understanding, but I also didn't have any qualifications to edit the book either. So I thought, if I approached them and say that, and I did intend to follow through on that, obviously, I just didn't know how I would do it. But to cut a long story short, they all agreed. And I worked on that book for a long time and was gearing up to self-publish it and thinking, well, I'll start a small press. And I met up with my good friend Jake Perlin, who runs the film distribution company, which he started, I think, 20 years ago. And he was one of the founders of Metrograph, the Metrograph Theater in New York, and was doing that at the time. And I said, I think I'm going to start a small press. And do you think that's a viable thing? And I have this New York press anthology, And he said, well, I got the rights to some books and I want to publish them, and we're friends, and why don't we just do this together? In a strange way, doing the New York Press book directly led to us doing Film Desk publishing together, although that book ultimately came out through another publisher. So we didn't do that ourselves, but kind of doing the book and getting involved and getting into the book world through that was the spark that led me to publishing. But the publishing side has been a discovery as it goes along. I know it wasn't something that I knew much about going in, frankly. It was something that both me and Jake had to just learn as we were doing it, really.
Sort of fake it until you make it.
Yes, exactly. And then you're just doing it, and you're like, oh, I guess I do know now. Happening. But there was no kind of blueprint to follow. I mean, we really didn't know too much.
I think I'm always interested when people talk about the imposter syndrome, and I've certainly felt it a little bit at times. But being working class and going to a university, I don't know, it just inured me to it. It was just like, I met so many stupid people who had such privileged backgrounds that I just thought, no one is qualified, I mean, we all are.
I have friends of mine who never went to university and have this kind of aura about people that did, or this incredible respect for going to university. And I'm always saying, you have no idea how stupid so many of these people are, and at a graduate level too. I mean, it was shocking, so it's not what it looks like from the outside.
Exactly. And I work for the sausage factory now.
Yes. And perhaps you can apply that to so many things. If you start to do them, you'll realize it's not as impenetrable as you think it is.
Yeah, I mean, I want to take away from that a sort of positive thing, which is, don't worry about the mystique of it. If you're doing it, then you are that thing. It's like people, exactly. I don't really feel I'm a writer. Well, are you writing? Are you published? Yeah. Then you're a writer. What else? What else do you want?
I said to someone recently, well, I'm not a real publisher or something like that. And they're like, but you are publishing books. And it's like, oh, I guess I am. It just doesn't. I think there's often that feeling almost like you're looking for some external validation of some kind where it's, oh, yes, you are real. You are really doing this now. And I don't think that exists.
I know. I was talking to a guy who works for Variety because I was doing some work for Variety myself. And I said something like, oh, I could get a scoop. And he went, wait a minute. No one's shouting, stop the presses for this. And I was like, I was thinking I should have a hat with press written, ticket with press written in the hat band. And it's just like, until I get that hat, I'm not really a journalist. Where's my hat?
You're kind of like, wait, am I actually a journalist now, or am I still just trying to be a journalist? At what point does it flip into something official? And it doesn't.
No, it never does. And yet at the same time, I feel totally, as I say, I don't really suffer from imposter syndrome, as this podcast has amply proven.
Well, good, as you shouldn't.
So let's talk about this book, because
Okay.
I absolutely. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to pretend I've read it from cover to cover because I haven't yet.
No, I'm sure you have.
And in fact, it's the sort of book that invites dipping.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But it really appealed to me, and it really is fulfilling that promise of this sort of like time when there was a printed word and when things were being written. And now in the internet. Yeah, there's great writing out there. I'm not an old fogey. I get it. But this idea that we're writers who are writing and had conversations with each other, and there was a certain permanence to their opinions, that really, to me, justified the publishing of the book. Why publish these magazines that from 91 to 2011, or that 20-year period. But I just loved the way these writers were having conversations with each other, even if they were writing totally separately and disagreeing with each other utterly. That was really great. What was your first experience of this magazine?
Well, what it wasn't quite a magazine. It was a weekly alternative newspaper, right. Which was very much a thing in the US at that time. It's very much a kind of pre-internet thing, because what the alternative weeklies did was had listings for everything that was going on in music or film or what have you. New York had two of them. One was the Village Voice, which is the more famous one, and one was the New York Press, which was the kind of scrappy upstart that came along. When I first moved to New York, when I first visited New York, I would pick it up for the listings reason, obviously, and also it was the kind of thing, you're going to get lunch somewhere, or you're going to into a doctor's office or what have you, and you just grab it on the street as something to read while you're waiting. And it's interesting what you say about print journalism. I mean, I think the kind of writing you would find is very gone, and part of that is the engagement factor, the fact that people really read this stuff. I mean, I don't know, to speak for myself, I obviously read stuff online, but a lot of stuff is very, my eyes glaze over at a certain point if it's too long and I'm looking at a screen. And I think this is, people wrote their weekly columns and people read them every week, and they had a devoted readership, and the writers were getting paid, which I think is a pretty stark difference with the internet. When I hear about what writers get paid now, it's frankly shocking. I think, I'm sure Godfrey, Matt, and Armond would have said a similar thing about what they were getting paid back then, but I can guarantee it was a lot more than what you would get now, and I think what that created was a climate where they had the time to think about their weekly columns, to really think about what am I going to write about, what am I going to say, and to do it and devote real time to it. And the other thing you touched upon is the way they were interacting with each other, which is one of my real memories from the paper, from reading it, was that one week one of them would review a film and the next week the other one would directly attack that review. And I just love this feeling of differing opinions and critics interacting with each other in one publication, I think they would often fight over who got to review what film, and if someone didn't get to review the film they wanted to, they'd often wind up kind of reviewing it anyway within the context of the review they were supposed to be writing. But I think that level of disagreement was really fascinating, and the New York press was very like that in general, and that its owner was a right-wing guy, its editor was a left-wing guy, and they published stuff that really ran the gamut across the spectrum, and there was no kind of party line to the paper. And I remember that being very confusing when I first picked it up. I was like, wait a minute, what is this? But I think I think it was unusual then. I think it's almost unthought of now. And I think that manifested in the film section even. You had three very different writers coming from very different perspectives. And I found that very rich week after week to read that kind of variety. And also I enjoyed the attacks they made on each other and the arguments and the opinionatedness of it all. So it just felt like a very vibrant climate of criticism in one paper,
Absolutely. And it's I mean, as you say, I would be used to Pauline Kael in the New Yorker attacking who's the guy with the comical name? Yeah. But there was another one, Bosley, somebody from
Bosley Crowther, right?
Yeah, who sounds like half wizard, half
yes,
PG,
exactly.
PG Woodhouse character.
Yes.
And, or post-Stephen Cahiers de Cinema, going at it. Yes. But actually having that argument in one venue is really fascinating. Who's your favorite?
Right. I would say. But no, it was very vibrant, and I think it kept them on their toes as well. Because I mean, I'm speculating here, but I think it probably created an environment where they had to kind of prove themselves to each other, or they were trying to one up each other. It was competitive, clearly. I just think that's very healthy. I think, if you go back in time, and I think you used to get kind of intellectuals sitting around tables in cafes and bars, like violently arguing with each other and having very different opinions. And I think that kind of comfort with difference of opinion is something that culturally has changed a lot. And I think even something as kind of benign as film criticism, I think you get these kind of, people get very upset when someone criticizes something they like, or, oh my God, this critic's an idiot, he didn't like that film. I'm always drawn to read critics that don't have my opinion. I find that the most interesting thing. Or a critic that I think is a good, interesting writer writing a book on a filmmaker that I'm on the fence about. I find that interesting. Like I'm not really looking to bolster my own opinions. I'm looking to challenge them. So I think that was always a thing with the New York press. I mean, partially because they were so opinionated, and I think that was, with someone like Armond White, who's become somewhat infamous of a name in film criticism for many, but he's seen as something of a troll who just goes against the mainstream opinion, and he does go against the mainstream opinion, but I think people read it as very disingenuous. And I don't think it is disingenuous. And I think it's also a legitimate critical stance to say, my kind of role as a critic personally is to challenge orthodoxies, to go against what I see as general trends that I don't like. And whether you agree with that or not, I do think it's a valid stance. I think someone like Pauline Kael, to some extent, was always doing that. Kind of writing to kick against the person she imagined was disagreeing with what she was saying, you know.
Well, Pauline Kael always makes me feel like she's criticizing the audience more than she's criticizing the film. She's always like, you know, people watching this film are thinking this, but they really should be thinking that, or, you know, you like this because you're idiots, you know.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Armond White is someone I definitely discovered as you've characterized him as much more, you know, almost sort of quoted with people going, God, this guy drives me nuts. But that's what's so interesting about going to this book and reading back on these things, and especially the conversations between the three of them, that they have these not dialogues but trialogues, I guess, where they're and he's making really good points, and he's making them really well. And I might disagree with him on the points, but I find I have to work out why I think what I think. I can't just think it. Yeah. And that to me is the essence of good argument.
Oh, absolutely. And I think I don't think anyone could argue that he's not qualified, as it were, as a critic. He knows his stuff. He's chaired the New York Film Critics Circle twice. He's a real critic. He knows what he's talking about. And I think people's discomfort sometimes with some of the things he's saying or his political positions mean that they want to discount that. And I just think it's so much more interesting to have people coming from all kinds of perspectives, as long as they are qualified good critics, you know, who know what they're talking about when it comes to film. It's so much more interesting if you have that plurality of voices. So it doesn't mean I love everything he writes or I agree with everything he writes, but I don't think there's a critic out there that I could say that about. And that's not the point of criticism.
Right, absolutely. And I disagree with Matt and Godfrey on you know.
Yes, exactly. Oh no, absolutely.
I'm not picking on Armond as a particular example of that. I certainly feel that my sort of political outlook probably aligns closer to Matt's and aligns closer to Godfrey's, but you know, that doesn't necessarily, you know, chime with my film views. You know, I mean, I perhaps am more generous in one direction and less generous in another. So when you approached these guys, did you already know them, or were you approaching them basically as a reader who wanted to become a publisher?
No, I didn't know them at all. I managed to get their email addresses through asking around, and approached them. And you know, Godfrey was very receptive immediately. He responded and said, "This is a great idea. Let's meet. I was just talking to Matt about someone should do this, you know." And Matt and Armond were pretty receptive too, but were, I think, probably understandably a little more wary of like, well, who is this guy and is he really going to do this kind of thing? And but it took a little bit of time. And at a certain point, they all agreed and just said, yeah, go for it. And so I then went into the process of finding all of this stuff. I couldn't quite find all of it. There is no real New York Press archive. So I think I probably collected 80 to 90% of everything the three of them had written for the paper. And then just went through the process of reading it all and selecting what to put into the book. And all three were great throughout the whole process, really helpful, gave me their feedback of what they would like to see in the book. You know, I made it clear at the beginning it was going to be my choice, but I was really interested in what they thought should be in there or shouldn't be in there. And then I just went to the process of sequencing it. One thing Matt said early on is he said it needs to be pretty equal word count between all three of us. They're still competitive, you know, so... But I also knew that it had to be sequenced in such a way that there wasn't, because it's chronological, there wasn't just a huge block of one writer. So I had to have an equal word count, but also have it kind of vacillate back and forth between the different writers to create that feeling of the dialogue. And so it was a bit of a mission coming up with a final sequence, and they were great with that. And yeah, it was a real joy. It was a real joy to work on, and very easy, really. It's a shame because it came out of COVID, and we were planning on doing screenings and stuff with the three of them, which I thought would be a lot of fun to get the three of them up there, and it just didn't happen because of COVID. Maybe it still should happen. Yeah.
It would be good. Yeah, you should. That would definitely be something to see. I'd worry about fist fights maybe breaking out or something. Or
they
even...
are friends, though. They are friends. So.
But I mean, that's what you said earlier about something as benign as film criticism. You obviously don't spend much time on Twitter. I immediately thought.
I actually don't spend any time on Twitter. I've never used it, so I really don't.
Yeah, well done. So because that place is toxic with. I mean, you can carve it and make it into something. You have to make a concerted effort to make it into something constructive, but its default position is the algorithm is toxic.
It's not. I tried joining it once. I don't use social media at all, actually. I just don't enjoy it. I don't really get it. I did join Twitter once because I got this idea of, it could be a really good news feed, as it were. Like if I follow things I'm interested in, I'll find out about stuff I'm interested in. And I did join it, and I just couldn't understand really how to read the tweets. It just confused me immediately, and I never looked at it again. So, yeah, I haven't got in there.
The importance of it, or otherwise, can be greatly overstated sometimes. Most people who are going to the cinema and everything aren't necessarily discussing it on Twitter. And I think going back a little bit as well to the general internet thing, there was an episode of Frasier once, which was, like every episode of Frasier, brilliant. And it had it was a bedroom fast structure. And for some reason, they all kept joining in a hotel bathroom, in the bathroom of this hotel room. For some reason, they'd have food. They had a cart of food in there as well, and there was a running joke that whenever somebody new turned up in the bathroom and was hiding in the bathroom from whoever they were hiding from, somebody would say, "Do you want a sandwich or something?" And they'd go, "Food in the bathroom," as like it's those are two things that, as a psychologist, you never have food in a bathroom. It's the wrong thing. I think that about the internet, in the sense that now we've got all this stuff in one venue. It's like we've got a vending machine for food in the bathroom, and it's like I love reading stuff on the internet. I love reading stuff and all the rest of it, but I go to the internet to work. I go to the internet to communicate with my friends, to communicate with my family, to do Zoom calls, to do podcasts, to do loads of things. And sometimes it feels like I'm eating in the bathroom, and I need to read stuff via physical books and magazines. I spend more valuable attention on them.
Yeah, I can't really focus online. I mean, I'm very old-fashioned in that way, and I, when I watch movies, I watch them on a TV, not on a computer. I'm very, when I listen to music, it's a stereo. That thing with a computer where it does everything, it means everything is interrupting whatever you're engaged in. And it's a constantly fractured activity, which just stresses me out, frankly. It's not for me, really. But obviously there is stuff I read online, and obviously it's a great tool in so many ways. And my business wouldn't really be able to function without it, frankly.
But I mean, when the books that you sent me very kindly, I just love the physicalness of them. I love the look of them, the feel of them. I love the weight of them in my hand, and most of all, obviously, I love reading them,
Yes.
but I'm reading them with much more attention. And as you say, the phone, the iPad, the computer, it's you're always aware of all the other things you should be doing while you're there.
Yes. Well, I think, a big thing when me and Jake first talked about this, about publishing books, I think we both had this feeling that there was a time in the 60s and 70s and really through the 80s and 90s, but that was the heyday where big publishing houses were publishing books on film. That's when Pauline Kael had her collections coming out, but you had much more niche stuff that was coming out in beautiful editions and being really pitched at a mass audience. And I think now a lot of film book publishing is university presses. You do get the more mainstream publications, but there's not that many of them. They tend to be more accessible things. And I think we wanted to do something that was not academic like a university press, not kind of existing in that. I mean, the university presses, the books are really expensive and it's kind of its own weird world I don't quite understand. And it is more geared towards academia, even if the books themselves aren't always academic, And I think we wanted something that was kind of pitched at a mass audience, not to say our books are particularly mainstream in their appeal, and also a big focus on them being beautiful objects and well made and given that care and attention. So very, very quickly we said we didn't want to do print on demand. We wanted these to be properly made, designed books, which obviously has its pitfalls,
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
It's much more expensive and it's a harder thing to pull off. But I think it was just, for us, incredibly important that they were beautiful objects. And that's because we both fetishize books. So
you're talking to someone who's got an absolute addiction at the moment, which is killing my bank account. I'm currently addicted to Library of America hardbacks.
Oh yes, I know them well.
Good God, they're so beautiful. I love those books so much. Thin paper, the smell, the little bookmark.
The ribbon bookmark. Yeah.
Exactly, it's perfect. So you said Jake had some titles that he already had the rights to before you started. So what were the first titles that you set about publishing?
Well, he'd done really before my time. He'd done 2 little books, which was he did a book of Lillian Ross from the New Yorkers. One book was her writing on Truffaut, and one was her writing on John Huston. So he'd already done those before me, and then I had acquired the rights to Film as a Subversive Art, which was the kind of top of my list book reissue that I wanted to do, and it turned out it was top of his list too. That was something we talked about. And he had the rights to, we did a little book, a Pasolini in New York book, which is an interview with Pasolini, and Duras Godard Dialogues, the interview book of Marguerite Duras and Jean-Luc Godard. So he had the rights to those 2 books, and he was just very busy at the time. He said, like, I've had the rights to these and we got to get it going. And I said, well, I got Film as a Subversive Art. And so we pulled our resources and took it from there. So Yeah, that was, I think that he'd done one other book, which was a Philippe Garrel book, which I was slightly involved in. And the first three books, the Truffaut, Houston, and Philippe Garrel books are all out of print, and the Pasolini one is now out of print too. Or there's a couple of copies left, maybe, but yeah, I think the Film as a Subversive Art was our biggest book, and I think the book that really kind of got us out the door. It happened to coincide with a citywide celebration of Amos Vogel, the author, right when the book came out, which was wonderful. It was his centenary, so every repertory venue in the city did a program in tribute to him, and so that was a wonderful thing to see, and it just really pushed the book out there and kind of got us really started. I mean, the other books have been mostly selling online, and we put them in a few stores. And then Duras Godard had come out during COVID, so it was limited how much attention it got.
I remember there's a frequent sort of, obviously because I'm doing Writers on Film and I do boost this via Twitter. That we do every now and again, there'll be a thread of people suggesting film books, and Vogel's Film as Subversive Art is often cited as that's one of the top titles that everybody comes back to.
It has. I mean, I always loved it. I knew it had a huge fan base, but it really does have a huge fan base. And I discovered that from redoing it. I had this experience where I was in a bookstore in upstate New York. It's a book and record store, and I chat to the guy sometimes in there, and then he said, "What do you do anyway?" And I said, "Oh, I publish books on film." And he said, "Well, have you done a new edition of Film as a Subversive Art?" And I thought he was asking me because he knew there was a new edition of Film as a Subversive Art, which he didn't. So when I said yes, he fell off his chair and said, "That's my favorite book ever. I can't believe it. I've been waiting years." And I've had a lot of experiences like that where people are basically saying, "This is my favorite book. I've been waiting for this forever. Thank you so much." So it's been really gratifying to get that out there.
Well, what do you think is the enduring appeal of that book?
I think it has something which speaks to, again, a slightly forgotten era of film books or the role film books played, which is, back in the day, you couldn't just watch these things at home. So there was that element of flipping through books and looking at pictures and kind of imagining the films you were reading about. And obviously, Film as a Subversive Art deals with films that you still can't see, mostly because they're so obscure, and you certainly couldn't then. But I think it speaks to that almost archaeological interest. It's like reading about things you don't know about, learning about things. It's something of an encyclopedia in its own way. It's also got brilliant writing in it, and it's a fascinating, unique, idiosyncratic book. In so many ways, it's kind of endless what it yields.
Yeah, absolutely. It just makes you feel so. It just makes you feel so much cleverer. I think I love engaging. I love it. I just love that. I remember a book, The Cinema of Loneliness, which I got out of Barrow Library, and reading. There's quite a bit about Peckinpah in there, and there's a few photographs of the end of the Wild Bunch, and there's Pike with the Gatling gun in the air and bloodstains on the wall.
Yes.
And this must have been years before I saw the Wild Bunch, and that image just stayed. What happened to create that? And of course, you read the description, and ballet of slow motion, and it's just like, what does that look like? I didn't see a clip of it. I didn't see anything until I don't know when I saw the film, but it was. It must have been on TV at some point, and I watched it and was blown away. But I can't help but think that it was that picture that really seeded the need to see Peckinpah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I remember I would read books on filmmakers. I mean, obviously, we grew up in the VHS era, so things were seeable to a point, but it was still pretty limited just limited what was even available, let alone you having access to it, you know. But I would pore over these books about filmmakers and look at these stills and read the descriptions and just imagine them. And I think that's almost a role of film books that it doesn't need to be filled in quite the same way anymore. Also, there's encyclopedic element, or you used to read director books and they would always have filmographies in the back and things like that. And people don't really do that anymore because you can just go online and go to IMDb or what have you and look it up. But I do like it when that's all in book form. But I think they don't need to do that in the same way anymore. Film books. We can see the films much easier. We can get all the kind of facts and the information, and that's gone a bit. But film is a subversive art. You can't really get that information anywhere else. Most of it. Those films are so unknown and so hard to see as well. So.
Yeah, and I mean, I think sometimes there's a limit. I'm always a bit surprised by the limits of the internet, in that you'll Google something and it'll say, 1 million odd hits, but after page 2, there's really nothing worth looking at, and it's you're not getting anything else. You're just getting repetitions of the same stuff. So to go deeper, you do have to kind of read the book. You have to read. You go to the footnotes and get. So, yeah. Exactly. Your this endeavor, that you survived COVID okay?
Yeah, we didn't. I mean, we weren't that active before COVID, so
right.
And we didn't have an office or anything like that. I took an office in the first summer of COVID, but yeah, it didn't affect us too much. I think it affected us. Obviously, bookstores were closed, so it affected us in terms of how many books we could get out to stores, but our overhead was very low then. I mean, that does grow as the operation grows, and as we become bigger and need more storage and things like that, there's more pressures on the business, but we tried to keep it very light in terms of what our overhead is and what the demands are in that way. And we distribute all the books ourselves, which has its pluses and minuses, of course. But so we operate pretty independently, really. I think something like COVID is much more damaging to a bigger operation that is more tied to other operations, as it were. I think we were able to kind of continue as normal, really. So
I'm really interested as well how, because Matt's got his sort of online bookstore as well, and he's, there's. I'm really interested in this sort of thing of sort of going across sectors, and sort of people are writing, podcasting, doing publishing, and then the layers are not impermeable. You can mix it up a bit.
Yes. Yeah, well, it's. I mean, Jake, my partner's very like that. I mean, he has a film distribution company. He's just launched a Blu-ray label for Film Desk, and does programming and produces films, and so it is very permeable like that. And I do work on books that we don't publish per se, that I work as an editor on, or have other independent projects. And then, of course, we also sell used books on our website. So we have a kind of used film book store as well, which is not necessarily the most lucrative thing, but I think just born out of the fact that me and Jake love film books. I love looking for film books, and I don't have room for them myself. So that's really just a passion of wanting to collect interesting books and get them out to people, and kind of foster, I guess, a kind of a community of people that are interested in writing about film, that like books. So I think it's about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think it is something that's where sort of culture comes from. It sounds a bit grand, but it's people get encouraged. If you suddenly have a venue, if you suddenly have somewhere to discuss things, if you suddenly have like-minded people, suddenly, I mean, I'm reading more film books than I've ever read before. Every week I've got another one to read. Bloody hell.
I know, you must be snowed under with them. Yeah.
I love it when somebody says they'll come on the podcast whose book I've already read. That's like, oh, that's a week off.
No homework whatsoever. Yeah. No, I think that, the good thing about the internet, and certainly from the perspective of Film Desk, is I think the ability to just start publishing books didn't used to exist.
Right.
It wasn't possible to create a website and have a direct access to buyers and just do it, basically. And I think kind of what you're talking about in terms of people with fingers in different endeavors and different ideas, I think this is what's great about the internet. Obviously, you can reach people directly. There's much less of a need to, I guess it's that gatekeepers idea. You don't kind of need the approval. You can just start to do it. I think there's a downside to the lack of gatekeepers too, but I think it's there's definitely an upside, and so me and Jake could just say, let's publish books and let's do this. And we did it. And God knows how we would have done that in the 80s.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how you would do that. So I think it does give people the ability to say, oh, you know what, we're going to start selling used film books too. Or like you say with Matt's store, he just started doing that. And he's also a critic. And then I know he's now publishing some books too. So it's fluid in that way. You can just,
so now he's a competitor.
He is kind of a competitor, I guess.
You've got to have there will be blood. You have to have there will be blood conversation. You're my competitor. I'll drink your milkshake.
I guess he is that. He's although he's also a supporter because he sells our books. So I wouldn't define him quite as a competitor. I think we have a lot of crossover, and then we also reach slightly different places. But his store is fantastic, and as I understand it, is going really well. And I think, me and Jake used to talk. He once said his dream was to have a physical film bookstore. There used to be stores like that, but I don't think they really exist anymore, except for at the BFI or Metrograph does have one. But it's nice to be able to do it online. And I think Matt and Film Desk are the only two that I know of that specialize in film books. So
yeah, to tell you the truth, on sort of, I only knew Matt via Twitter and whatnot, and I was under the misapprehension that he had an actual physical store. So right. I was, because it just sounded like that. It sounded like, because he'd say, "Oh, look at all these we've got on this shelf," and I was like, I'd love to go into that store and see a section. I think I even suggested, he came on the 100th episode of the podcast, and I even suggested to him, "Oh, you could have a shelf with writers on film," and he was like, I think he was nonplussed at that suggestion. By the window. It's like, okay.
It's like, there is no shelf.
There is no window.
I think it's become quite a big operation. I think he kind of runs it out of his garage, but I think it's getting to be a bigger and bigger operation for him, which is fantastic. But the thing he does that we don't really do is he stocks new film books. When something new comes out, he orders a certain amount of them and sells it. And we've done that a little bit, but it's almost accidental. It's someone we know us, as if we want to sell a new book, or it does happen, but we don't seek that out. We're not robust in operation at all, to handle that. But it's great that he does that.
So you were saying that a lot of your first books are now are they already sold out? Quite a few of these titles that you've published.
Yes, those two Lillian Ross books sold out. The Truffaut one did get reprinted, and I think at a certain point our resources are limited, and we just felt let's let this one go
and move on to another.
Yeah, exactly. We got to focus on new books. We've had a similar. I mean, the Pasolini New York one, we've reprinted it 2 times. There's been 3 printings, and we may reprint it, but it's a little. It's this little very cheap paperback, and it's things have got a little complicated. Printing costs have gone up a lot recently,
Right.
and the viability of doing it at that price has got a little difficult. So we're looking at that. We may bring that back into print, but we just felt we had to focus on newer projects.
So what are the new projects that you're doing at the moment?
Like as in the upcoming projects?
Well, yeah, also sort of stuff that's available that people can get right now.
Oh, right. Well, we put out earlier this year, we did a new translation of Jean Cocteau's Diary of a Film, which is his Diary of the Making of Beauty and the Beast.
I read the copy you sent me. It's a beautiful book as well. So
yeah,
good.
it's great, isn't it great?
Yeah, it's amazing.
And that was the second book that me and Jake talked about doing. We talked about film as he had the rights to some. I had film as a subversive art, and that was the first book we talked about seeking out. We both really wanted to do it, and it's a beautiful book, and it had a bit of a complicated road because there's an existing translation from a British poet called Ronald Duncan from the 50s, and I got the rights to that, and so we thought, great, we're gonna move ahead with this, and we sent it to a translator we work with. I had all the text prepared, and we just said, let's just send it to him, and he can check it and maybe update it a little because it was it felt a little dated. And he got back to us, and he said, this translation is not really a translation; it's more of a free interpretation of the diary. The guy has kind of almost rewritten the diary in his voice or what have you. So we decided at that point we really had to do a brand new translation. So it's never really come out in a proper translation in the English language. So I'm really happy and proud that we did that and got it out, because it's such a beautiful book, and it's so fascinating to read. To get so much insight into the process of filmmaking from someone like Jean Cocteau during that era, and how hands-on he was in the production. There's also a lot about his medical problems during the shoot. I don't know what was happening to him, but it's a really beautiful book. So that came out in January. We also did a new edition of Ashley Clark's kind of extended essay on Spike Lee's Bamboozled. So we put that out towards the end of last year. He'd done that several years ago for a small press that went out of business, so that had been out of print for a while. So yeah, those have been our 2 most recent books. We always have a lot of things we're working on, and there's always a lot of delays. Everything just takes longer than you think. That thing I always used to look at, kind of publishers or books I'm excited about, and they say it's coming on this date, and then it's constantly getting delayed, and they get frustrated. And now I understand why that happens. It just happens. Things take a while to pull together. But we do have a number of things that we're working on. Probably none that I should really talk about yet because they're not quite there. But we do have a number of things we're working on that I'm really excited about. And there's always a long list of things we would like to get back into print and things we'd like to translate. I mean, I think that's a real source of books. There's a huge amount of fantastic film books that are out of print, and there's a huge amount of fantastic film books that are not in the English language. Or I assume they're fantastic. I haven't read them, but they sound great. And I want to read them, and that's sometimes a motivation. With the Duras Godard book, Jake acquired the rights, but he hadn't read it. But he figured it had to be good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
This is going to be good. There's no way. And I think the same with the Pasolini New York book. we neither of us speak a foreign language, so it's a bit of a leap of faith. But when I was in Paris probably 5-6 years ago in a bookstore, just looking at all these incredible film books that I wanted to read but couldn't. So I think there's a real wealth out there of material that just hasn't made it over.
And especially there seems to be a real crossover between quite a lot of filmmakers who are themselves literary. I mean, Pasolini's a novelist and a poet.
Yes.
Cocteau, obviously. I was even watching Orson Welles' birthday the day before we recording this, and there was an interview with him, and he just came out with such a lucid. I mean, I know it's Orson Welles, so what else do you expect? But there was such lucidity and such, and I just sort of think this is this sort of culture, this literate culture of the word, is to be preserved and cherished. And what about? Would you be looking or wanting to sort of like commission new writing as part of your
Yes,
mission?
we would. I mean, there was a point early on where I think we felt, much as I obviously am a huge fan of film criticism because I did this New York Press book, and I recently did a book we distribute but didn't publish with Godfrey Cheshire of his writing on Iranian cinema. And
excellent book.
I think we felt a bit we wanted to do books that were slightly less of the moment, director books and filmmaker books, but that's not an official line, really. We have actually approached some people, and we have, I know word is out on this already, but we approached Nick Pinkerton, the critic, to do a book on Jean Eustache that he's working on. And so, yes, we do that, and we would, I think, like to do a lot more of that. But again, it's always a bit of it's just how much time we have, how much money we have, and what we can really handle.
Well, that's the real gatekeeper. I mean, we talk about there's no gatekeepers and all the rest of it, but there are. It's mortality. It's the fact that there's only so much time in our existence, and so you don't want to waste your time, reading the second or third or fourth best version of something. You want to read the best. Yes. You want to read the.
No, absolutely, and I think I do. I mean, I like the idea a lot of commissioning books from active writers, because I think to speak to that point that I was saying earlier about a lack of film books in the culture that are beautiful objects and that are pitched in a more less academic context. I want to create that with writers. I want to give writers the opportunity to create those books new, rather than just taking existing books from the past and that came out in that context already and getting them out there again. So I think it's an important thing, and there is a little bit of that happening from other people. There's Fireflies Press, they did the magazine, and they've started doing books too. And I also saw that Another Gaze is starting to publish books. So it's really encouraging. It's nice to see that is starting to happen more, and there's more small presses taking on film books.
I think this is a wave. I mean, I think Mubi doing a print-only publication, and the idea that a streamer is actually engaging in a non-digital format is amazing. Look, what was it? Last year was the most vinyl records ever sold in history.
Yeah.
Partly that's a statistical trick, just because there are more people than there ever have been in history. So
remarkable. If you think about when that was the only medium.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you a final question, which is going to be a tricky one, because I want you to recommend a film book, and I'm not sure how you're going to play this, but I'm not going to say anything.
Well, I'm not going to recommend one of mine. But,
that was the obvious answer.
Yes. Much as I'd like to, because I wouldn't be publishing them if I I mean, there's so many I could mention. Obviously, I'm obsessed with this stuff. So I'm looking right now. Right now, I'm reading Hawks on Hawks.
Oh wow, Joseph McBride, guest of the show.
You had that recently, right?
Yeah, he's coming back as well.
Oh, great! So I just started reading that, which is fantastic. So I love those director interview books. I wish there was more of them now. I miss those Favor and Favor books.
Oh wow, yeah.
That whole film line was formative for me. Yeah, the Hawks on Hawks seems great. And I guess I'll throw in one other, which is just one of my favorite books of any kind, which is Bresson's Notes on Cinematography, which is just such a strange, beautiful book.
Absolutely. That's amazing. That's really good. Yeah, God, I mean, going back to what we were saying earlier about the sort of culture of people and how the industry used to be and everything. I mean, I remember at university, I was always one of those people where if I went to someone's flat, I'd immediately, go through the record collection and go through look at the bookshelves, and everybody had a Scorsese on Scorsese. Everybody had a Tarantino script, Coen Brothers collected screenplays. It wasn't just like, oh, you're a cinephile. It was like, everybody had that, it was like Den and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and Scorsese on Scorsese. It was like,
absolutely. No, I'm the kind of guy that when I watch a film or an interview with someone on screen and there's a bookshelf in the background, I'm looking at the bookshelf and trying to decipher the books. And as you say, if I go to someone's house, I can't not look at the bookshelf.
Yeah. Eyes Wide Shut, the scene where he's in the prostitute's bedroom and there's a huge copy of Sociology. I'm thinking, I even know the writer of that book.
I know. I'm always kind of ashamed or something that I can recognize the out of focus books just by the look of the spine, the kind of blurry colors on the spine.
Yeah.
So.
That's amazing. I found a fellow sufferer. Whatever disease this is.
Yes, we are afflicted.
Absolutely. Listen, it's been wonderful talking to you, Jim. And
thanks, John.
Next, when you have perhaps some more news on a new raft of things coming out, we could talk again.
Yeah, great, fantastic. Yeah, thank you.
$1-800-Flowers.com knows that a gift is never just a gift. A gift is an expression of everything you feel and helps build more meaningful relationships. 1-800-Flowers takes the pressure off by helping you navigate life's important moments by making it simple to find the perfect gift. From flowers and cookies to cake and chocolate, 1-800-Flowers helps guide you in finding the right gift to say how you feel. To learn more, visit 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/ACAST.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with Auto Quote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.